Hello everyone, quiet Sunday afternoon. Thought I'd share a new arrival yesterday, or actually it was, I guess it came in yesterday afternoon. Pretty excited about it. The Franklin Armory Gen 3 BFS binary trigger system. If you recall, last year I did the Gen 2 install on my SBR, and it was quite an ordeal for me anyway. Took me a lot longer than I had anticipated, but the install is it was a lot more involved with this. The Gen 2s, if you recall, I'll try and put a link at the bottom of this, or remember if I can, to my install on this. Basically, it's a trigger package that you mounted in your lower receiver. It all went in as one piece, and the difficulty comes in is to where the trigger pack sits in the receiver itself, whether it was too low, too high, based on how the trigger pins, hammer pin, went in the receiver and held it in place. It also affected the way that the trigger functioned if it didn't sit exactly in the proper position. The Gen 2, as you see, or if you remember, actually has 3 disconnects. There's 1, there's 2, and then the backup third disconnect right there. There's a little notch on the hammer to catch that. This was a bane of this trigger system in that it caught the hammer when it wasn't intended to be caught. So you were either getting trigger functions that didn't activate, or you were getting hammer follow quite a bit. I altered a few things in this system. I put the TACCOM ultralight buffer and Springco Red heavy duty spring in here. Also, I modified a Adam's arm low mass bolt carrier and have it working with a Superlative Arms gas piston system. So that took a little finagling, and I might go through that at a later time. But I'm excited about this. As you can see, there's not a trigger pack. There's an actual standard trigger system, as any mil-spec trigger install would be. Here's the, they also include a heavy duty spring to mitigate some of that hammer follow with the new generation, and it seems to be functioning rather well. They took out the backup disconnect on this and have a different system in place for this trigger. We're gonna try and install this. Hopefully it'll go in a lot easier than my past attempts at the Gen 2. I'm confident that it should be at least somewhat easier. Also, the reason I went with this system over, say, the Fostech Echo is a couple of big reasons. One is that all of my weapons or rifles are gas piston. Here's a Superlative Arms one-piece bolt carrier, and you can see it has no way, obviously, of functioning in a DI setup, which is what Fostech sends. It's part of the package is a bolt carrier that they've milled right at the back end of the carrier. They've got it milled out just a little bit right there, and you have to use it for their trigger system to work. Well, in my case, I would have to do that modification on this bolt carrier and use my own bolt carrier, and then the end result would be I paid for a bolt carrier as part of the kit that I'm never going to use. That's why this kit is far less expensive than the Fostech kits, especially when you can now get these kits for somewhere. I saw a recent one for $370. I got this one for $379. Well worth the price on what they started out at. I believe Fostech is closing in at almost $500. I could be wrong about that. I haven't looked at their recent prices, but that, and you know, they have, you know, specific ways to close the, you know, your hammer has to be in a specific position so that you can close your upper, and just a lot of things I didn't care for in that system. So got another DFS. We're going to see how this one goes. What we have here are the parts. You have your trigger, hammer. They've already been mounted with their springs. The factory sends the standard mil spec spring. They also include a lighter trigger spring if you so desire. You have a hammer with a heavier, actually this one is the lighter spring, and then they provide a heavier spring if you want a heavier hammer. 3-position safety selector, some lube, stickers, trigger pins, and that brings us to the difference in the trigger. As you can see, it's a much cleaner, more refined approach than the Gen 2. You don't see 3 disconnects on this trigger. There's the one disconnect right there, and then the IDS that interacts with the safety selector is the little guy on the left. Much nicer, and should be a lot of fun to use when I get it put in. So let's get the install going. Okay, so basically pretty straightforward. You just drop in your trigger and take one of these pins to kind of keep it in place. It's already got a slave pin that we're going to drive through. So here I've got it set up ready to bang the slave pin out. Basically, I don't know if the camera's showing it, but I've got a pin on this side ready to start in, and I've got another pin on this side holding it level so that it drives through smoothly. On the right side, you want to insert the pin smooth side first, not the one with the furrow in it, but the smooth side first, and drive that through, driving the both pins out. Let's see if we can get this to happen. Unfortunately, I had to move the camera temporarily to get a proper angle on driving that pin in, but it's in there nice. And pretty straightforward. It's obviously, any of you that have done trigger installs, this is second nature. And next we obviously do the hammer, and that's again pretty much straightforward. Other than the fact that my big hands are in bad position, so I'm going to have to shut the camera off for a second or move it. So there's the get that in camera. There's the installed hammer and trigger. You can see the much cleaner look. As I said, let's see if we can do this. You have the, as I mentioned earlier, this is the disconnect, and there's the IDS. I still have to put the safety selector in, but you can already see, here's the Gen 2, a lot more involved in the setup. You have all these disconnects in there, and this one too in the backup. I mean, pretty easy to see. A lot cleaner, a lot nicer, and from what I've seen on videos, it functions a heck of a lot better. As a point of interest, this is an Anderson Arms lower. I wanted to test one of these out, see that you know, for a bargain lower, I think I got this for 40 bucks, and that included shipping. Every single installed piece has gone right in. Everything is mil spec on this. I mean, even the enhanced Battle Arms pivot and takedown pins. Some people have had trouble with these that have, you know, Cerakoted their lowers and tried to install them, but I love these pins. You know, the pivot pin, you have that magnet that they send with it, and it just makes the installation of that so much nicer. Got the Strike Industry mag release. It's coming along pretty nice. I'm going to get the safety in and then do a function check on this trigger system. Alright, finally finished, and I must admit it was a lot more pleasant than the Gen 2. I thought I'd do a quick function on the trigger. Right now, so what we'll do is move it to safe, and it should not fire. And it does not. Move it to fire, and it fires. Now move it to binary. It should fire. Recoil. Fires on binary. So everything's functioning. It's coming together pretty good. It's my latest AR build. Like I mentioned earlier, Anderson lower. Used an LWRC upper. This barrel is, I like the barrel, man. This is a 223 Wild Bear Creek Bear Claw, they call it. It's an awesome looking fluted barrel. Made from 416R stainless steel 1 1/8 twist. It is melanite treated. Built or machined to ISO 9002 quality standards, so this is a very reasonably priced, well-made barrel. Waiting for other parts to come in. Probably going to go with Primary Arms 1:6 scope. Probably going to do again the diamond head handguard. And what else I got? We'll see as it all comes together. Just glad that the trigger didn't give me any grief. Anyway, bar's open. It's beer 30. You guys all have a great day. Have fun. Be safe.